Hello, everybody, and welcome to Round 1 coverage of the 2020 Down East Players Cup presented by Basket Bashers. I'm Brian Earhart, joined here by Nathan Queen. What's up, dude?
Going well, man. Happy to be here in Greenville, North Carolina. Looking forward to watching this past champions feature card that we have here.
And Nathan is going to be walking us through a lot of the holes at this tournament. I was not there to play. We do have, like he said, a past champions card. And thank you again to all the patrons of Gatekeeper Media. We will continue to bring you great disc golf content. Thank you for all the support. And here we are, dude. We have Barry Schultz, Dan Hastings, Scott Conway, and Taylor Rafaleowski.
Rafaleowski, yeah. Scott and Taylor are both Greenville locals, both great players. They've both reached the 1,000 threshold in the last year or two. Barry Schultz, everybody has heard of, and Dan Hastings, a lot of people have probably heard of as well. He came down to North Carolina a couple years ago.
And here we are, Nathan. What about hole 1 here?
Yeah, so hole 1 is a pretty good righty backhand starting hole. You got to hit this tight gap, and you want to drift just off to the right before you fade back to the left with this blue basket. It's been pushed back from a couple years ago to make it a pretty tough starting hole. We've got Barry here. It looks like he just didn't get that disc turned over enough. He should have a pretty easy par play from there.
And I know Dan Hastings is he still a primarily sidearm player in the woods?
Yeah, Dan definitely prefers his sidearm. He's got a little bit different style than most people. Here we've got Scott getting one out to the right and gets up there in the circle, correcting off of those first two guys who were missing a little inside.
Oh.
And Taylor catching that one small tree in the middle you got to miss. A really good forehand from there to scramble up and have a good par look.
All right, you never want to start the round with a 4.
Definitely not. And Dan, what I was saying about Dan is he forehands with one finger. I'm pretty sure the majority of the time. So a little different than most people, but he's very good at it.
Incredible sidearm player. And here's a zone from his hand, I believe. And that's an X soft zone. So a lot of players really like the ability to beat that disc in. He should be up there for a 3.
And Barry just playing it up for his par after catching those trees in the middle. And here's Scott. He recently was picked up by Dynamic, I believe, this year. It may be Lap, but I think it's Dynamic. And knew it out of his hand there. He had it just a bit high, but good bit on hole 1, not miss low.
Seems like a very challenging, subtle drift right before it comes back to the left. Kind of an interesting technical shape that you have to throw right off the tee.
Yeah, with how tight the gap is off the tee, it's tough to get it to go right and still fade back.
Dan taps in the par.
Yeah, good save from him. It looks like everybody's going to get their 3s here. And the Greenville Club has done a lot of work to this course to make it what it is now. I really appreciate all they've done. And it's a really fun layout. I'm glad everybody's going to get to look and see what Eastern North Carolina has to offer.
There is no shortage of technical woods golf that makes you throw some really interesting shapes in North Carolina. If you are looking to take a disc golf vacation, I would say this is one of the top states to come to.
Yeah, you've got the Charlotte area, and then across the state, even, anywhere you go, you're going to find a nice wooded technical course that can hone your skills in. And we've got hole 2 here, pretty open for what we've seen from the first hole, 351 feet. The concrete path, or the concrete pad you saw off to the left is OB. The fence on the right is OB. And if you go long, you see it flagged to be OB as well. So Barry doesn't have much of a chance here to be in. That's over close to the short pad of 3. And he'll be throwing from before that concrete pad, just laying up for his bogey.
It's a really interesting choice that he made off the tee. Must have been some sort of wind read to go for the roller. You'd think he would go straight at the basket.
There's a pretty strong, I believe, left to right wind, if I remember correctly. So I think he probably expected that to stand up more.
Scott going with a nice backhand. Something slightly overstable. That's got to sit down.
And it looks like he just keeps it
Just
in
snuck
bounds.
in.
He'll be just outside the circle for a birdie look. Taylor with the power forehand.
Oh my gosh. We saw from his drive on hole 1 and his forehand on hole 2. Sounds like power is part of his game.
He's definitely got power.
And Barry, after going way short OB, after kind of a misfire on that roller, he's going to throw that beat-up blue putter that he throws.
And that's not what we typically see from Barry. He's a very good touch player. He drops it under the basket or in the basket pretty often. So he's not going to be happy with that. Dan making a good birdie putt from circle's edge right there. Could have been just outside.
And Dan being a phenomenal putter. Dan actually just won, I believe, it was like a $2,000 putting contest recently.
It was at this event, this event as well. Like I said, the Greenville Club's been working hard. They added, they had a $2,020 putting contest, winner take all for 2020.
And great putt there from Scott.
And I believe Dan won the Disc Golf Pro Tour putting competition as well, didn't he?
He did not. That was Reed Friscuro that won. He went deep into the tournament. And to me, doing that multiple times over in different events shows that you are a very, very solid putter.
Absolutely. Good putt there from Barry to save his bogey. That was definitely not what you want for bogey. And then Taylor here with that forehand that went long, finally getting a chance at his birdie putt.
You can see the wind is blowing a little bit out here. Solid birdie.
Yeah, good putt from him. So for that putt, he was going to have a little bit of right to left. See it moving his shirt. Moving on to hole 3. You have this concrete pad in play a little bit. It's a pretty sharp angle around this corner. The wood line is OB, and left and long you see the flag line OB. 263 feet, so it's not a tough shot, but it's pretty easy to push it straight and go out too far straight. See, that looked like it was inside off the tee, but that's about what you want.
It's a very common shape that's starting to pop up, is like the forced sawed off hyzer with a forehand or a backhand. Or if you're Barry, you have to throw one of these really technical nose-up turnovers with something flippy.
And Scott had the right angle there with his turnover backhand. He just caught those branches. He needed just a little bit wider. And there's Taylor pushing the long with what looked to be a good shot. That's probably about circle's edge there.
And you know it's a tight shape when Barry Schultz is throwing a sidearm.
Oh, man. He is throwing a sidearm, and he's pushed it out a little wide, also right about circle's edge.
That might have been the first tee shot I've ever seen Barry throw sidearm.
I've played with him a good bit, and I'm not remembering any right now, so I wouldn't doubt it.
Scott with a decent bit at the basket there from about 45.
Yeah, Scott's a very solid putter as well. I've played with him a lot. We've had a few playoffs around North Carolina.
Just low off the bin for Barry. Could not capitalize on the sidearm.
And Taylor's got one more of the spin putt going on, and it looks like he pulled it just a bit right there.
Oh, boy. A little bit high on that putt, but Dan is going to cash in another 2. Luckily, he was close enough.
Yeah, it looks good at the end, sitting in the bottom of the basket.
Exactly. It's interesting putting on elevated pins. The baskets are not really designed to catch from that type of angle, that type of steep elevation, so I guess a high putt is a totally fine putt here. Scott taps in a 3. And like you said, 1,007 player rating. North Carolina and South Carolina both seem to have a lot of local players that are all very solid.
The last couple years, especially since I've left, that all of a sudden there's just like 10 people that are right around 1,000 rated going out to every tournament and competing for a win.
You gotta love that.
It's cool to see, definitely your home state coming back and having all these great players that it's producing. And here we have hole 4, which this is a new long tee, and it is one of my favorite holes on the course. You have to hit a sweet gap out of the woods, opens up into a right to left crosswind that you'll have, and then back into the woods a little bit into the green to protect that basket from the wind.
And fighting that crosswind is Dan.
And you see, he didn't quite fight it well enough. He got it turned over, and that wind just kept it pushing left where it didn't come back out.
Yeah, probably needed to be a few feet higher to get that flex back.
And Scott, he's saying the same thing. Get up. He wanted it just a little bit higher so it would fight back out, but it looks like he's just outside the circle. He'll have a good look.
And Taylor's throwing just a hard hyzer forehand. That's got to be a stable disc out of his hand. Kind of a rough roll deep,
Yeah.
but he still has a chance.
Unfortunate little roll, but he kept the nose down on it so that right to left wind couldn't grab the bottom of the disc and push it left.
Look at this play from Barry.
And then Barry just showing you what he does, throwing straight and 20 foot.
The way he plays crosswinds is so unique to a lot of other players. He manipulates nose angle a lot more than other players.
Dan giving it a long look. He'll have a fairly easy comebacker for his par now. Scott from just outside the circle, I'd say 36, 37 feet.
Solid push putt.
Corrects from hole 1, which was just a bit high, and drops it in there for a good birdie. Taylor with the spin putt, too.
Super spin putt. Great putt there from Taylor.
Yeah, way to capitalize even with that little roll away there. He had that gap in between the two trees. Then Barry with pretty much a tap in here. Great straight shot, just showing him what to do pretty much.
Yeah, it's one of the harder winds to play as a backhand player, the crosswind that's going with your hyzer angle. And to get the disc to go straight like that just shows all of his years of experience.
All right, so here we are on to hole 5, 390 feet. That foul pole or you saw the Mando on the tree just past the foul pole there. This is a pretty tough hole to reach. This is part of the new redesign. If you've got a 400 foot of power righty hyzer, that's your best play here. I think I was going roller if I could. It's a pretty tight gap. You don't want to get too far inside. Scott's thrown it pretty well. He's pushed it straight to get out of the gap. But you can see it's a pretty tough hole to reach.
And you can see how much more left you have to get off the tee. You kind of have to throw hard hyzer, out of the hand and have that disc flipping up as it's pushing left. And that's like the common miss, it looks like.
Yeah, just pulling it, trying to get there, you're going to straighten it up a little bit. And he's actually gone deep into the woods. So he definitely had the power on it, just a little bit too much stand up.
Oh, and Barry hitting one of those middle trees.
Another reason showing that it's hard to reach this hole if you try too hard. Dan's done it pretty well here. I think he's still going to come up a little short of the basket, but that was the best shot we've seen.
That's a good flare that he got, too. That was a good line. As you can see, hyzer out of the hand. It kind of destabilized mid-flight.
And that's a little more what we're used to seeing, or I'm used to seeing from Barry on the upshots there. Taylor in some trouble in here. It looks like he's looking pretty hard to try to find a forehand line through there.
After taking a little bit of time in the woods, he has pitched out to a reasonable distance, still kind of a tester to get that par.
Scott from maybe 60 feet or so. Knew it was low out of his hand. Par's not losing strokes on too many people on this hole, though.
Oof.
Just a bit high left from Dan. Good line, though. You can tell he's confident with his putt.
Oh, yeah. Nice putt from Taylor.
And great par save there. Struggling to get out of the woods, but able to connect on a longer putt to save the par.
Yeah, there's definitely a mental battle when you know you have a 35-footer for par and bogey is looming right around the corner.
Barry, after hitting the first tree with a wide open that it is after that initial gap, he's able to save that par pretty easily. And this is one of the holes that had a great change. We used to be, you'd play it to a lot shorter pin, and then there's another pad off to the left, and you played another super short hole. So kind of combining two holes somewhat here to make it
it's a great pro-level par 3, for sure.
Moving on to hole 6, another just under 400 foot. This road does play OB, and it's a really fun shot to throw. It's slightly downhill. Eastern North Carolina, you don't get much uphill and downhill, so even a little downhill I'll notice. You're going to have a little bit of a right to left wind. You want to throw it straight, and then there's kind of 3 choices. You can go straight at it off to the right where Scott's going, but you want it to come back a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then as a lefty, there is a little smaller line on the left that I kind of push for to hyzer back into. It's a nice green here. I enjoy this green.
Taylor going hard hyzer out of the hand. That is flipping nicely.
Just missed the last tree.
Great shot.
Great shot from Taylor there.
Little nose up flex from Barry. That's got to miss some trees.
Yeah, faded just a bit early and caught one of those trees, but he's still right around circle's edge. He should have a look for a birdie. And then this is the kind of the line I was talking about. He's fading a little early, but he is going to miss all the trees, and he should have an open putt from there. Scott from circle 2, which we've seen a good amount so far.
Yeah, throwing solid lines, and just that last fourth of the flight is just not landing where he wants it to land. And fun fact here, if you haven't seen this on social media, Dan had announced recently that he switched to the Banger GT for his Circle 2 putting, and he absolutely loves it. Look at this solid push putt. He has that just on lockdown.
Yeah.
Such a good putt, and really a putter that I've, personally putt with myself. I think it's one of the more underrated putters on tour or in the game.
Yeah, I think he's probably one of the few putters or players, that switches putters once they get outside the circle.
Yes.
Like not just to a flippier putter of the same version, but he switches molds.
Yeah. I think he putts with a UV Challenger in Circle 1, and then, something with the Banger and the way it fits in his hand just feels better for those putts.
And Barry able to get his birdie there. It looked like he was a little closer than I thought. Kind of dropped it in. And after Taylor's drive, he doesn't have a whole lot left here to collect his birdie.
Bit of a checkerboard scorecard for him. 3 under par for the round through 6.
Yeah, I know he's going to be looking to want to get another birdie.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of going back and forth trying to get a string going. Scott getting the lone par on this hole, that's a good, they played the hole well. Now hole 7, Par 4, 635 feet. Baseball field playing OB along with the parking lot. Another change here to make it a good par 4. You see the shorter pads here. Once you get past the parking lot, it does remain OB on the right, and then the wood line on the left as well. The flags curl out to the left of the basket and long of the basket. So you've got a pretty tight green here. Good righty hyzer through the gap. You just don't want to push it out too far right and bring those posts into play.
Oh my gosh, so close to being dangerous, but he lands in the middle of the fairway. Solid shot.
Yeah, he lands where you want to land. If he hadn't hit that, he'd get further than most people do.
And that's gotta sit down.
Yeah, good shot. Good shot there from Barry. You do get your 3 feet off of the fence, so as long as you're not Big Germ or somebody with about a 7-foot wingspan, you should be all right off of that fence.
Oh.
And 2 people so far have hit this light pole over here, both being fortunate enough to stay in.
Oh my God.
Uh-oh.
Seriously.
And that might get a flare off the road.
If he can miss these posts, it might come back in, but it didn't have enough speed. And he'll be out pretty early in the parking lot back there.
And just for a routine shot, he knows that it was kind of a silly mistake, not common. But I think that is the miss. I mean, if you are trying to throw kind of a longer hyzer, you're just getting on the disc a little bit too much. And he's been throwing the disc well. He really has. You know, he hasn't been throwing picture-perfect shots, but he's been in play. This is kind of the first blemish we've seen.
And it's a pretty scary shot from here to try to get up there since the OB surrounds the entire basket. You've got to...
Oh, no.
This looks a bit too turned again. And he's not going to advance super far there.
He might have to re-tee.
He did throw a flex, so I think he'll move up. Maybe where that short pad's at, up against the fence. But Dan, he's showing you what to do. That's how you play this hole.
It's a great second shot.
This looks a little... Oh, terrible kick off of that tree into the out of bounds. A similar thing happened to me. It is savable from there. It's about 35 or 40 feet, but not what you're looking for.
This is a tight green to access.
Yeah, with 635 feet, it's definitely reachable. So I think that's why they put all this OB there to make it, you know, it still has that pucker factor, even though it's a shorter par 4.
Oh my gosh, and a third out of bounds shot for Scott.
And you know he wants to make this putt just to end the hole. It's been a tough hole for Scott here. Hopefully we can see him rebound. And Barry, this is going to be to save his par after kicking OB and leaves it low as well. With all the OB around the basket, it's a little tougher putting at it as well. It's not super close, but it's definitely in your mind. And
oh no, a third low putt.
And I'm sure Dan's just sitting there thinking, man, I'm glad I'm 2 feet away. There's some type of force field on this basket.
Yeah, he'll just get to break that force field with a tap in.
Fix the basket for the next card.
Yeah, wow. The teeth on hole number 7 definitely showing here. Barry takes a bogey. I believe that's going to be a triple OB 8 for Scott. And Dan, after capitalizing on kind of having his drive knocked short by that pole, he throws a great second shot with the driver and just gets it under the basket for a birdie.
And yeah, that was an 8 for Scott there to move him from 2 down to 2 over. Brand new hole, hole 8, 551 feet. Super tight gap. You see here late, you have to hit this gap to get out into the open and have a good look at this basket, which you have to throw through another gap here. Fantastic hole, great par 4. Touchy shot out of the woods. You're going to see mids from power players, fairway drivers, or maybe even some drivers just if you're comfortable hitting the angle with it.
And Dan looks like he's thrown a decent shot here.
And that's exactly where you want to be at. He hit the line perfect, went straight through the middle of that gap at the end.
Whoa, and a helicopter follow through from Taylor, a little bit high. Couldn't quite see where that went.
We've got Barry here. Oh, and he's leaning over a little bit. It looks like he may have tweaked a little something on that throw.
There's a solid line from Scott. That's perfect.
What an incredible drive after the unfortunate events of the last hole.
Yeah, just trying to get back to even at that point, trying to get back to a reasonable score.
So Barry, after the slipping or catching something on the tee pad, gets a pretty good second shot to get out, and he'll have a chance to save his par from there.
And I'm not sure if that grunt was pain or it was just him putting all of his might into the shot, but you really hope that Barry didn't hurt himself on that throw.
Yeah, it sounded a little painful, but it was a great throw. He
Yeah.
put it right up where he wanted. And Scott just a little bit off to the left, not far, but gets kicked into the woods. He'll still be able to save his par from there. Dan kind of doing the same thing, going off to the left. That's not what you want after such a great drive out of that wooded gap.
Taylor putting a good move on this flick here. Showing off his versatility with the straddle flick. Now Scott's got to take his time with this one to make sure he puts it close. Sit down.
And a good touch there from the tree right by the basket. He'll be able to get his par. Dan just kind of pitching around the corner. And it looked... Is this Taylor's birdie? No,
that was actually
his par.
another par putt from Circle's Edge for Taylor, and that is really crucial for saving around when your drives are just not pinpoint off the tee.
Absolutely. It keeps your mindset correct as well.
Exactly.
If you can keep saving these pars, it makes you feel good. Even if you were originally planning a birdie, saving a par can keep you going.
Exactly. From having the wheels completely fall off. When you start missing comebackers after not throwing clean approaches, that's when stuff starts to go downhill mentally. Barry's going to save his par.
And Scott as well. So after a couple good drives, all pars there, which is still, I would say, pretty good for the hole. Moving on to hole 9, we've got a little triple mando here, 150 feet. Slightly elevated basket. There is a, I believe, $300 ace bounty on this hole. Tough to do when you got to go under a... Looks like Dan's trying, though.
Oh, man.
Good run there.
X-off zone from Dan. Hits the mando.
Taylor going with the forehand as well.
And that's a solid shot. Hits the base, park job. How wide is this gap here that they're having to hit?
I'd say it's probably 10 feet.
Oh, my gosh.
Maybe 12. It's not real wide. It's definitely for a 150-foot hole, you still have to think about it. If well, it's better if you don't. But
Oh,
and he
no.
just skips over, so he's going to be re-teeing now. So throwing 3 here.
Oh, luckily he does hit the top.
He squares it up. This isn't really a great putt for bogey, but I'm sure he'll run it and slam it.
Oh, my gosh.
All right,
What a save.
Pretty,
That's got to feel good.
yeah, that's a pretty wild 4 there. That's not, yeah, let's get the rewind. Great putt here.
And a nice, legal step putt, just kind of a nice continuation of his weight after he released the disc. We see a lot of people these days who are kind of sneaking through that jump putt rule, but super clean from Scott. Great putt.
Dan, after the ace run, he's up the same height as the basket. He probably wanted that in the first place.
Oh, yeah.
Great putt there from Dan. He's 5 down on the front 9, so good start from him.
Yeah, very clean. He's been getting off the tee solid enough to where he doesn't have too much danger.
Barry just walked and picked up his disc. I believe at this point, from that little slip that he had on hole 8, he decided to go ahead and stop and make sure he didn't injure himself any worse.
Oh, wow. Shout-outs to Barry. Hopefully he is doing okay. Tweaking a muscle, you can kind of go either way with it. It might get better, it might get worse, so I think it's a good choice to...
Yeah, I hate to see it. But here we are after 9 holes. Dan Hastings 5 under. Taylor with his making all those spin putts 4 under. Scott with a rough hole 3 over. And there you see Barry, unfortunately, having to drop out after that slip.
Thank you again so much for supporting Gatekeeper Media. Make sure to subscribe to them on YouTube. If you'd like to support them farther, they do have a Patreon. We will see you on the back 9.
See you guys there.